Hi, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of Building a Harmonious Family with Nevena Bajalac. And today, in this episode, we're going to talk about health. We're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about food, overcoming depression, overcoming health issues with your children. Because my guest is Malvika, and Malvika is based here in UAE, Dubai, but she's originally from India. However, she lived in 6 different countries, and she's going to share with us her journey, how is parenting with her, and her personal struggles that she managed to overcome, so you can also benefit. So Malvika, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here and taking your time.
Thank you, Navina, for having me. It's an honor.
Thank you so much. So I would like to know, first of all, we usually start before you became a parent. So how was your life? Where were you based? Tell us a little bit more about you. And then we're going to dig into parenting and how everything went from there.
Fantastic. So I'm originally from India, and I grew up in a fantastic, I grew up in 2 cities. It's called Bangalore and Mysore. And my father was in the police. My mother is an educator, so she's been a teacher and a principal her whole life. And I had a fantastic childhood. We did all the right things, road trips, all the natural stuff. I grew up in a fairly strong Ayurvedic household. So my mother believed a lot in natural remedies. And I'm also, being Indian, it's a very integral part of our culture. We resort to natural remedies, and it was a fantastic childhood. I had a great childhood, and very easy, happy, extroverted person. I love dressing up. I love going out. I love being with my friends. So very normal, good, happy, fantastic childhood. And I got married in my early 20s when I met my husband, and he was in the US at the time. And we met in India, and we got married very quickly. And I moved to the US. So my background, educational background, is I did my bachelor's in business management. But then destiny had other things in store, and then I met him, I married him, and I moved to the US, and I worked in the casino and hotel industry for a few years, and actually managed VIP services, which meant I was closely in touch with celebrities and high rollers. So that was a very glamorous and extremely exciting part of my life. At a very young age, to be given such great responsibility, because celebrities come with their expectations of us, and to be able to be in that position was wonderful. And I did it for many years before I had my first child. And I think it was time to have my daughter, because I think we were partying too much and working too much. And it's a glamorous industry. It's a 24-hour industry. So lots of partying, eating the best food and traveling, and it was great. So I was ready to settle down. Now I got pregnant with my daughter, and I wanted to work till I gave birth. And the company also was very kind and said, we'll keep your position open should you choose to come back. Unfortunately, I had to quit my job because I had a condition called hyperemesis gravidarum. It's called HG. I'm going to say HG. So HG affects just about 2% of the world's women's pregnant population. It's a condition where you're basically allergic to pregnancy. Just like somebody might be allergic to nuts or to eggs or to shellfish, and your body reacts in a bad way, my body does not do well with pregnancy. So, and I ticked all the boxes of severity. So there's a series of, do you have this, this? And I ticked every single box to the ultimate extent, and could barely get out of bed. Massive headaches, constantly blacking out. My husband would leave me in the morning to go, and he'd keep in the room food and cookies and pastries and whatever he could manage. And he'd come back, and all he'd see was buckets and buckets of vomit, because that's one of the conditions. You're throwing up pretty much 30, 40, 50 times a day, all day. That's the nature of hyperemesis gravidarum. And anyways, there's no harm to the baby, fortunately, because it's unrelated. The baby was fine. But the hyperemesis really did a number on my food pipe. my esophageal pipe, which had been severely corroded because of the prolonged and extended pregnancy and the vomiting. And it took me, once I had my daughter, I chose to nurse her, and she was born normal with minor complications unrelated to hyperemesis. But fast forward, I was living my life in the East Coast in the US. And about a year after I had my daughter, I just wasn't feeling myself. And I don't know what it was. I couldn't put a finger on it. Having washing my hair felt like a chore. Making food for myself felt like a chore. Bathing myself, or even going to the grocery store, everything felt tedious, and it felt, do I really need to do this right now? So I was eating stuff out of a can, just enough to survive, just basic existence. And because my husband was in a very busy job, and he had just started he was also in the casino industry, so he had also taken on a big role. So he was very busy. So he was not home as much. And I remember I would do everything I needed to do for my daughter. She was my top priority. Her sleeping, her feeding, everything was perfect, and there was no negative feelings towards my daughter. So she gave me tremendous joy, but I just was not myself, and I didn't realize what was the problem. And I never told my husband. I never told my mother. I never told my in-laws, who are very supportive. I just think I started slipping away slowly, and I started losing weight. And my coping mechanism ended up being working out too much. Started working out. I started vacuuming a lot, constantly cleaning. I didn't have a lot of friends at the time because I was in a city that I just didn't have friends. It wasn't that kind of an environment for me. So I realized I was lonely. I struggled with not seeing sunshine because a lot of people like sunshine. I'm a sunshine person. And we used to have 8-9 months of winters and rain and cloudy skies. That made a big difference. And we did a routine trip to New York. And I remember that trip, I broke down. And I told my husband, I'm feeling suicidal. And prior to that breakdown, I actually had felt suicidal, and I had suicidal thoughts. And it was when I called him and told him that I was feeling it, that he said, just come back to the room. We were at the hotel. He said, is the baby okay? Just come back to the room. We'll talk. So he ran back from a meeting, and I basically came in to just drop the baby in a safe place. Because, you're not thinking when your hormones are off, you're not being logical. There was no, I want to harm the baby or anything. I'll be very honest. What had happened was I was trying to fix my reflux, which is gastrointestinal reflux disease, as a result of the prolonged vomiting during my pregnancy. And I had visited a gastroenterologist, and he did a very quick diagnosis, and he put me on medicines, which unfortunately, one of the side effects is depression. And, like everything comes with a note at the bottom, these are the side effects. We never really read them because it's such fine print. You need a magnifying glass to read it. And he never warned me. He just said, this will help you go off. And what should have been a 3-month small dose and monitored dose ended up being a 6-month. And he had put in a refill. And I was like, wow, this is really working. My body is responding well to this medicine. I can eat what I want. I have no reflux and no burping, no problems. And I started taking it. So over time, that medication was doing a number on my chemicals and on me. And it wasn't me. And I also had what is called SAD, which is called seasonal affective disorder. It's a short form. So it's SAD, and it happens to people who, again, like sunlight, need the sun. And the fact that the sun goes down and that you're living in a dark somewhere where it becomes dark fairly early, that does affect you. So I had seasonal affective disorder in addition to my circumstances, which is I didn't have a lot of support, friendship. My husband was very busy. And the medication had done a number on me to the point that I was actually suicidal. Like I'd be driving and I'd be like, oh, wow, if I just swerve off the road, I wonder what's going to happen. And that is not me as a person. I mean, anyone who knows me knows that is not me. And you know it's not right, but you don't know how to control it. And then I would pull over on the side of the road and I would have a full-blown panic attack. I would literally have a panic attack. And I had this one lady one day just knock on my window and said, "Honey, are you okay? Do you need anything?" And I said, "I'm okay, thank you." And then I just turn around, go back home, put the baby to bed, feed the baby, and just curl up in bed and just wait for this panic attack to go away. And if someone has never had a panic attack, anxiety attack, it feels like a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
It really feels like a mountain is just caving onto you and you feel heavy. You feel really heavy, like you're lifting a lot of weight. That's how you feel. So I used to have a lot of panic attacks. And then fast forward, and I never told my husband. And that was the sad part is, though we had such a great relationship and he was such a great guy, I just think he was busy and he used to come in and I used to be sleeping. He used to kiss us. I used to be, "Hey, what's up?" I used to make him breakfast, lunch. He used to go to work because he just opened up a brand new hotel casino. So he was working 16, 17 hours a day for months. And he said, "Oh, you're losing weight." And that's probably because I was working out and, all the baby weight is leaving. Uh, and that trip to New York was a determining factor. And then we just stayed in the room and I broke down and I told him what was going on. And we immediately took control of the situation, called our family doctor, went and met a clinical psychologist who said that I would need therapy and possibly some medication. But my session, because it was now the Christmas holidays, so everyone was going off on vacation in the US because it's a big time to do that. My family said, "I think you should fly back to India and stay with us for some time and heal and then go back and start your therapy." I did do that. I came back for 3 months and I did not have a great time because despite being amongst so many people, friends and family, I was still so lonely because I was not okay. The chemicals in my body were not okay. And I still didn't know that it was the medication that was affecting me because I was taking it regularly. Um, I had a chance encounter with a doctor at a party who is a homeopath. And he said, "Oh, I know your family, blah, blah, blah." And he said, "Can you come and see me?" He said, "I'd like to see you." I said, "See me for what? I'm leaving tomorrow to the US." And he said, "Please don't mind me saying this." He said, "I see great sadness in your eyes and I want to talk to you." And I said, "Okay, all right, let me see what I can do." And if people have their beliefs about medication, right? Some people believe in allopathy, some people believe in homeopathy, some people believe in Ayurveda. It is a personal choice and that's someone's personal journey they wish to take. I chose to go on that path and I met him just a few hours before my flight was ready to take off. And I truly believe that he saved my life. He did a full profile on me and then he said, "The medication is doing a number on you that you're taking for your reflux. You have seasonal affective disorder. You have ABC. Yours is situational depression, circumstantial depression based on your circumstances of your life. It's not genetic. It's not like you were born with it and you're chronically depressed. I'd like you to get on this medication, which is for the next 3-4 months. Meanwhile, I'd like you to do A, B, C, D. I'd like you to work out. I'd like you to get sunshine. I'd like you to do this. I'd like you to change your food habits." And I listened to everything because that's my nature. If someone says this is good for you and I believe in it and I've researched it, I will do it. And I did. And luckily for me, as soon as we got back to got back to the US, my husband told me that we were moving to Vegas, where I said, "Sunshine. Oh my God, I'm going to have sunshine all the time. I'm just going to sit in a park and let that sun encapsulate me." And so again, those factors contributed towards it. From start to finish, I believe I was depressed for possibly about 2 years. And I think talking about it really helped. I got a lot of support from my family, my husband. And over time, I overcame it. And I think it's been about 12, 13 years now that I've been depression free. I always tell people not to confuse depression with sadness. They are two completely different things. because sadness is normal, sadness is temporary, sadness weighs you down briefly, but depression is chronic and it gives you really bad thoughts. And that's when there's a problem, and that's when you need to seek help, and you need to talk, and you need to gain that support. Especially, we talk about it a lot around these times because around COVID, people are struggling in so many different ways, you know, financial, family dynamics, being quarantined, future uncertainty, so many factors. So I've been more open to talking about it now, though I've shared my journey with my friends and family over time. So I do believe it is possible to overcome it, depending on what kind of depression you've been diagnosed with.
Yeah.
And lifestyle change.
Yeah. I want to ask you, what would you say if, because I know when you're in that position, you have those thoughts, when it's happening to you, it's very hard to open up and talk. So what would you say, what was the first step? You had this trip to New York, right? Which was, and
Yes.
it was accumulating, but what would you say to parents if they're listening, if they think they might be depressed, if they understand now, they heard your journey and they say, oh, wow, this is happening to me as well. Like, who should they talk to? What is your advice? And how they do this first step to really open up? Because I feel when you have suicidal thoughts, right, you also have a guilt because you're like, why am I thinking this? Why am I behaving? Why I don't
Absolutely.
have energy for my child? Why I don't feel motivated? So we just go into this vicious circle. So how they break this circle? How do they make the first step to talk with someone?
See, basically what I'm doing right now, Navina, is I'm talking to you. I'm talking about a subject which is so taboo in so many cultures, and to the point where people who are depressed are not crazy. There's nothing wrong with you, right? It's no different from having a broken ankle or a fracture or many other body ailments. The problem is because it's to do with the mind, people are questioned. Depression can happen to anybody. In fact, some of the happiest people I know have opened up to me about being depressed. So the first step, and incidentally, when I spoke about it on one of the other forums, one of my friends asked me to do a video on it. And she says, I just need a face to do a video, Mal, because not many people want to lend a face to this topic. I said, I'm happy to talk about it. And I ended up having so many women message me privately saying, I'm going through depression, but I haven't told anybody. I said, the first step, please, is to tell someone. I wish my husband hates me for that. He says, why didn't you tell me? And why didn't I see it? I said, because people who are depressed are amazing creatures because they're amazing at keeping it hidden.
Yeah.
They're so good at keeping it hidden. And I was going through insomnia. I was going through weight loss, but he wouldn't have seen it because he was like, oh, she's had a baby. She's trying to lose weight. She's working out. She's eating healthy. Why would he be concerned? And little things, the biggest trigger is, things to watch out for is you start losing joy in doing things that you usually liked to do. That's one of the first few signs.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you're someone who takes care of yourself personally, like dressing up or doing your hair, and then suddenly you're kind of not that interested in doing those things, you become a bit of a slob. That's a second factor. For me, my breaking point was when I took my daughter to the 43rd floor of that hotel in New York, and I saw kids and parents in the pool swimming. The simple act of changing her and going into the pool with her felt like a chore. It felt like I was doing it with tons of weights on my shoulder. It was weighing me down, that action, lack of energy. That's a big one. When you're depressed, you start lacking energy. So either you're oversleeping or you're going to you have insomnia. So these are such important triggers. And your food habits. You stop taking care about the good food. If you're a foodie and you like good food, now suddenly you're just eating whatever, just basic sustenance, right? So these are things to watch out for. And my breaking point was that moment when I said I need to end it because I can't do this anymore. I felt guilty that I could not take my child into a pool to just let her swim and have fun because that was too much work because I had no energy.
Yeah.
So that's when I had that moment of a breakdown. So talking to someone is the first step. And that person should responsibly tell you to talk to a certified counselor. It's so important to speak to someone who can guide. And today we have so much
Yeah.
access to the best, and people are talking. I mean, I had a kid when we didn't have social media at all. I mean, Facebook wasn't even there. Facebook, I joined it in 2008, 2009. I had my daughter in 2005.
Yeah.
So she's a teenager now. So I grew up in a different time, and we didn't Google things for everything, signs of. So it was kind of me and myself and I uh, talking about it.
Yeah.
Talking is the first step
Well, thank
if
you.
you want to get better.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I mean, this is so
Of course,
beneficial. It's so helpful. I want to ask you now, I just want to step forward, and you have a second child as well. So
I do.
as you were recovering in those 2 years, how was your second pregnancy, and how this changed? And I want you to share also what is that you do now and how you help people now. What was
Of
your
course.
passion that you discovered?
I will. Thank you. So my son is actually my third child, and I had a second pregnancy that I lost the baby
Mhm.
in an advanced state of pregnancy, and I lost my dad 13 days before I lost my second child. So they reckon that the shock of losing my dad, who I was very close to, may have been a contributing factor to me going into labor very early. It happened on a plane. And by the time we landed and got to the hospital, unfortunately, we couldn't save our child. So for me, that was, and as soon as that happened, I remember my aunt, who's also a doctor in the U.S. and who was very instrumental in my support through my depression. She was very supportive towards me. She called my husband and she said she needs to keep an eye on her. She's just come out of her depression. She's on the journey of recovery. She's lost her dad. She's lost her baby. Please keep an eye on her. I worry that she's going to slip back into depression. I'm very fortunate that I did not go into depression. I was very, very sad,
Yeah.
very sad, very weak. I was on bed rest because I'd lost a lot of blood due to the delivery of the child. And my mother-in-law flew in the next day from the Middle East. She lived in Oman at the time. She flew in within 24 hours and said, I have to take care of my daughter. And she nursed me back to health. That entire 1 month, that support I had from her was fantastic. Also, I needed her because when my husband was at work, just to focus on my daughter, because I was healing from a child loss and the loss of a parent.
Yeah.
So that strength, I think I got it from the fact that I had to be there for my mother, who was struggling, my older child, who was also struggling now, losing a grandparent and losing a baby that she was looking forward to, because all her friends and my friends at the same age were also having babies. So there was my older one now suddenly saying, where's our baby? Where's our baby? We're preparing for this baby. So I had to wear my big girl panties, and I had to suck it up and say, you know what? All right, time to get back on track. Um, so once I got through that, I also, the second pregnancy was also hyperemesis gravidarum. It was also pretty bad. Again, so once you have hyperemesis, the chances of getting it again and again is very high. So I sucked it up and I had it. And then I got pregnant with my third child, which was in Australia. So I had my son in Australia. So we moved from Vegas to Australia, and I was preparing my body for another child because we had been told that I would be a high risk pregnancy because of the fact that I had lost my second child, and I was heavily monitored, and I also had hyperemesis the third time. And it wasn't fun. It was horrible because now I couldn't just sleep all day because I had an older child that I had to care for. But that's when the mommy guilt comes into play, because I used to drop her to a daycare right down the street at 8:30. We were the first people to drop her, and she was the last one to get picked up. And I carry a lot of guilt over it because I was new and my husband again was working, and I physically didn't have the stamina to take care of her and entertain a 4-year-old during the day. But she was so happy in the daycare,
Yeah.
and she loved it and she was happy. And I sometimes hug her now. I say, I'm so sorry I did that to you. And she's like, I don't remember it. Why are you apologetic? So that's part of being a mother, right?
Yeah.
So because let's fast forward to back to your question. Because of the onslaught of such severe vomiting, all 3 pregnancies, I have a corroded esophagus. So my food pipe is corroded, and there's a surgical procedure that can fix it, which I'm opting not to. And I also am opting not to do medication because you know my history with medication. So I'm choosing not to go down that path. I have brought it under control with natural remedies, with a fantastic lifestyle of exercise and yoga and meditation, and primarily food, Navina. I always say all your problems begin in your gut.
Yes.
Your gut is the root cause of all the problems. And I will tell you again why I feel so strongly about gut health is because about 3.5 years ago, my daughter fell very ill, my older one, and we didn't understand it. She just suddenly started throwing up, nauseous, diarrhea, and vomiting and headaches. And we said, oh, it must be a stomach bug. It'll go away. And then you wait for a few days. And then I took her to a good gastroenterologist. And he said, we're going to run some basic blood work. When they did the blood work, he called me and he said, wow, there's this one particular count that's very high. It's called calprotectin. So it needs to be in the double digits or maybe 100 in the lower digits. My daughter's was in the thousands. That's how severe the infection was. And he said, we need to do an emergency colonoscopy and endoscopy for her. And she was at the time 13. I said, like both at the same time? He says, yeah, like tomorrow. There's a severe infection. I want to get to the bottom of it. I said, okay. And in my head, I'm like, oh, this child has lived a fairly normal life her whole life. There's been no issues. And we're not a junk food family. We're not a every week, every day McDonald's. We're an Indian household. We cook a lot at home. We're a very home cooking family, and we're a foodie family. So we take pride in that. And that day changed my life because we came out, we finished the session. I mean, we finished the tests. And he came into the room and he said, listen, I'd like to talk to you. And we sat down and he said, your daughter has Crohn's. I said, I'm sorry, what? He's like, your daughter has Crohn's disease. And I said, but nobody in our family has it. What is this? And I've heard about it. I'm an avid reader, so I know about these things. But now I needed to do my research. And I said, okay, I understand. And he said, just absorb this information. Let's finish everything. You go home, and then there's no magic fix for Crohn's. This is something that
can you tell us, can you share with the listeners who don't know what is Crohn's?
I am. So I discovered that Crohn's is basically, it's an irritable bowel disease. Mm-hmm. It's not a syndrome, it's a disease. It affects your inner body. There's inflammation, and sometimes severe Crohn's can result in cancer. And the life expectancy of people with Crohn's is not very great. So when you read enough about it, it is there's an infection inside the intestines and in the bowel area, basically. And the bowel area, we know, is a very important area of our body. I said, but she's 13. I said, I don't understand it. I said, I know she was, she's been going through anxiety because of, being a teenager and friendship dynamics and school, and a little bit of bullying was going on at school, which we addressed. And that was really getting to her. I said, I know this was going on because, and that's one more thing I want to tell these listeners is please identify issues with your children. If their body or their mind they're acting differently, there's a problem at school. There's a relationship dynamics. There's something going on social media. There's some drama going on because that can make them sick. It's very important to be in tune with your child's pattern. If your child is sleeping too much, suddenly your child is not eating, your child is anxious, your child is sweating too much, keep an eye out for these symptoms because raising teenagers in this day and age is different from when we were teenagers. For us, we went to school, we left the drama at school, we came home, we had no social media, and we just kind of hung out with our family and talked. Today, they're all so plugged in with social media, so they're constantly going through drama all through the day. So that's very important to do. So that was a contributing factor, is anxiety and stress that she'd been going through. And I stayed in bed for a couple of days. I didn't want to get out of bed. I just did not want to get out of bed because I said, I have this diagnosis. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, reading. Oh my God, this is not looking good. I joined a Facebook page for people with Crohn's disease. And the more you read, the more devastated I was.
Yeah.
And then my husband, he said, listen, if there's anyone who's going to be able to handle this, honey, it's you. He said, I know you. You're one of the most determined, strong, well-read, passionate, persons I know. Come on, get out of bed. She needs you. And of course, right after she got the diagnosis, she was loaded with so many steroids and so much medication that this poor child was throwing up 12, 13 times a day, all through the night, during the day. Mommy, I'm sick. Mommy, I'm nauseous. Mommy, I don't feel well. Mommy, I'm not good. 13-year-old, parents are just not equipped to see their kids go through pain because there's so much love, and you never want to see your child go through that situation. So then I started doing my research, and I said, okay. I said, after 12 days, I said, I'm going to stop these steroids. And mind you, I sent her reports to UK. I sent her reports to the US, to everyone I knew, saying, let's make sure this is the right diagnosis. Everyone said it was Crohn's. And we had a diagnosis. It was Crohn's. Now we need to be sensible. What do? You take your meds, kind of, and then you just have to make a lifestyle change. And you have to hope that you will be in remission. Remission is a period when you're symptom-free for a while. And I remember the first few months, we were in and out of hospitals maybe 25, 30 times, just constantly doing this test, doing that test. If she was sick, I was in the hospital. We were in the blood work, this work, that, we were stool test. We were constantly in and out. I lived at the hospital, basically. So that was a bit trying. And then sometimes you're like, I'm done. I can't do any more hospitals and clinics anymore. That was the turning point when we made a lot of changes in our lives. I told my husband, I said, clean eating is what is recommended. And if she's going to eat clean, we're going to eat clean. I will not have a different menu for her and a different menu for us, because that's not fair. She's a teenager.
Yeah.
She's going to have to give up pizza. She's going to have to give up ice cream. She's going to have to give up so much of her life because she has been so sick for so long. And I said, and I started reading labels. I started reading lots of labels on every single thing I gave my daughter. So I literally went to my pantry and I said, let's trash all of this, because you pick up a packet of, I'm just throwing it out there. You pick up Cheetos or you pick up a packet of chips. You're just,
even
okay,
bread,
I want
even bread.
Even
now,
bread.
Instead of 2-3 ingredients, now it has 15 ingredients. So why bread has 15 ingredients?
Exactly. And you can't even pronounce it.
Yes.
And how many of them? And they're very clever. I mean, they market it so beautifully that you don't even know that that's the main ingredient. They just say red 345, which means red, this dye comes from something. One of the key things that the doctors told me was she needed to avoid preservatives completely. Yeah. Preservatives, artificial colorings, any artificial sweeteners, which is in practically everything. And then that led me to do a lot of research, and I went back to, who do you go back to when you're in trouble? Your mother. Mm-hmm. So my mother, who's always been an Ayurvedic believer in naturopathy, she used to send me articles and suggestions and links, and she was bombarding me, do this, do that, do this. I said, I got it. So we started off with a lot of cleansing foods, which is in we believe in fennel and cumin seeds. So there's a process where you boil it, and that is it cleans your system, it detoxes your liver. So her day would start with that. And then half an hour later, I would give her a very bland breakfast. And then lunch for school completely changed. There was a lot of fruits and vegetables. And I researched it, and I realized that like pomegranate and mangosteen and manuka honey and these kind of foods are anti-inflammatory. So they clear the inflammation within your system. So she had to have fresh pomegranate juice every day. She had to eat mangosteen every day. So there was no gluten anymore.
Yeah.
I remember the first pizza she ate was, I think, 7 months after her diagnosis. And I remember the way she was just, oh my God. And it wasn't the normal pizza. It was gluten-free, something cauliflower based. It
Yeah.
was so organic, but she was so happy that the cheese, again, couldn't be processed cheese. So we are slaves to consumerism, and we put so much garbage in our system. And that, to me, that was such a wake-up call to me. And I said, no more juice. We put these little packets of juices in our kids'
Yeah.
lunch boxes. Well, it says natural this, and then you read it, it's like,
Nothing natural.
nothing natural. It's just there, just saying natural to grab you. It's like clickbait. And then you don't. You just say, oh, great, it says natural. I've been a good parent. It says no added. And then you read the ingredients. I mean, anything that lasts on a shelf for months together,
Yeah.
it's not fresh. So we stopped juices in the house. There's absolutely, since 3.5 years, there's no processed juices in my house, it was just those little packeted apple juice and stuff.
Yeah.
Even that stopped. I started brewing my own kombucha at home. I went for a class. I started brewing my own kombucha for gut health. So I told my daughter, I said, honey, if you want to drink something, you're stuck with either cumin water or this water or fresh lemonade or fresh home juices
Yeah.
or kombucha. I started brewing kombucha. I started making my own kimchi because kimchi is very good for gut health. We have what is called gooseberry, amla, and gooseberry is one of the most potent superfoods because it has a very high vitamin C content. So I started making it at home, and I started giving her one every day. I said, this is great for you. You're going to have it every day. And she was young enough that I could make her do things. So it was and then that's when I took on yoga, because I'm into fitness. I'm a fitness trainer. So I've always been into fitness, but yoga was something that I was like, well, I need high energy pumping exercises, right? I need to run. I said, I need yoga to get through this, for my mind, for my calmness. I need yoga. And it has become my lifesaver to get through this difficult phase, because that process of healing her and being obsessive compulsive about that process, I started becoming the headmistress that was like, nope, read the labels. Nope, that has this and that has that, and don't have this and don't have that. And today it's become a lifestyle for us as a family. And in fact, we are so sensible and mindful about it. And a year and few months after we started my daughter's journey, we went to a few other specialists because she was in remission for a bit. We had a couple of episodes. They're called flare-ups. So you have your symptoms again, your tummy hurts, you have a little bit of vomiting, but not as severe as when we first diagnosed her. And the minute that happens, I was on my A game. I said, okay, next 1 week, we're getting back on our diet. We're not slacking off. We went to doctors, and the doctors were shocked at how her reports were looking good. And one of the immunologists said to me, I don't know what you did, but it is obviously working, because her report is great. Wow, she's in remission, but please don't get excited about it, because that's the nature of Crohn's disease. It's a progressive disease. It progresses over the years, and there's no, this is your fix. It's a lifestyle change is your fix. And it's mostly either hereditary or environmental reasons for why you would get. And you'll be surprised to know that most teenagers and people in their early 20s get it. So that's a fact that most people don't know. And it's very prevalent in developing countries. So think about if it's so.
You obviously did, I mean, an incredible job. And it is true that the food and everything we put in our body is definitely the most important thing. And I love your message, read the labels. And I would like to wrap up the episode with this advice from you. I mean, there was so many advices about food, and what we're going to do, we're going to put a link for people to connect on social media with you. So if they want to reach out, if they want to find out more about your journey,
Absolutely.
more about things
Absolutely.
you did, so we're going to put links there. So everybody who listen,
Please.
if you are going through similar things, make sure to
Please.
go there and connect with Malvika. And I really want to thank you. This was an incredible episode.
Of course,
It was
Navina. Thank you.
so much amazing information, and I just want to, I'm so proud of you and want to congratulate you for doing such an amazing job as a mom and a fighter, and
Oh,
going through
thank you.
everything you've been through, and just keep on doing this amazing job.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to see your new things you're going to create and do.